September 2025. I can see that we have present Councillor Allison, Councillor Brogan, Councillor Matthew Buchanan. Do we have Councillor Carmichael? No. I have apologies from Councillor Maureen Chalmers, and we have Councillor Dewar present substituting. Do we have Councillor Cooper? No. We also have present Councillor Cowan, Councillor Devlin, Councillor Donnelly. I have apologies from Councillor Fagan. We have Councillor Ferguson. I have apologies from Councillor Ferguson Miller, and we have Councillor Toner substituting. We also have a present Councillor Handybode, Councillor Horn. Do we have Councillor Hose? Apologies. Thank you. Do we have Councillor Lambie? No. We also have present Councillor Loudon, Councillor Hugh MacDonald. Do we have Councillor McClyman?
Apologies.
Apologies. Okay. We also have present Councillor Leslie MacDonald, Councillor McDougall, Councillor McGeever. Do we have Councillor Razak? No. We have Councillor Ross, Councillor Scott and Councillor Williams, and there are also a number of officers present today. I'll hand back to yourself, Chair. Thank you.
Thanks, Carol. Do we have any declarations of interest, please? I'm not seeing any notified. No declarations of interest. Can we move to item 2, the minutes of the previous meeting held on the 11th of June? That's pages 5 to 12 in your pack. Can these minutes be approved as a correct record?
I'll second that, Chair.
Thank you. There's no other comments or questions. Minutes are approved. Item 3, monitoring items, revenue budget monitoring, 24-25. That's pages 13 to 24. Lorraine O'Hagan, if you could speak to this report for me, please.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Committee. Item 3 then is the first of 4 financial monitoring reports, and as Chair explained, this is the revenue report for the old financial year, so 2024-25, and it reflects the resource position that we reported to Executive Committee back in June. Section 5 of the report notes the year-end position as being break-even, and that's after some transfers to reserves. Now, these transfers were facilitated by the late allocation of Scottish Welfare Fund money. We got that quite late in the year and weren't able to spend it all, so we're carrying that forward into the new year for spend in the current financial year, 25-26. And we also had an underspend in empty property relief and also in our grants budget. Again, we're carrying forward the grants budget into the new financial year. The approved transfers to reserves are noted in the appendices for members' information, along with some final variants across the year-end period. And we're also showing the variance explanations for the position for each of the service areas at the end of the year. So the 3 transfers to reserves that we had approval for were Scottish Welfare Fund, empty property relief underspend, which was passed on to the insurance fund. It allowed us to make a contribution to that fund at the end of the year, and also our grants money, 106,000 going into the grants pot. So the recommendations in section 2 then are asking the members to note the break-even position after the approved transfers to reserves, and also to approve the year-end environments. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorraine. Do we have any comments or questions regarding this report? I'm not seeing any. Can we agree the report?
I'll second the report, Chair.
Thank you. Moving on to item 4, revenue budget monitoring 25-26, pages 25 to 36. Back to you again, Lorraine.
Thank you. So on page 25 then, this is the new year report for our revenue budget. Again, section 5 of your report provides the new year position. We are showing a break-even position at this point in the year, and this is to the 11th of July in the current year. Appendix A notes the high-level summary of the services, giving you just a high-level position on each of the services in terms of our projected position for the financial year. And then Appendix B gives you the resource summary as a whole on a subjective basis, and then the individual services fall off the back of that through Appendices B to I. Environments are also proposed to realign budgets, and they're noted in your appendices for your information where appropriate. And again, the appendices also show, as well as the projected position for the year, they also show the actual spend to the 11th of July. If I can refer members back then to, again, the recommendations in section 2, and just ask that the break-even position for the current financial year for finance and corporate resources, as noted in Appendix B, be noted, and also that the proposed budget variance be approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorraine. Do we have any questions or comments? No, I don't see any. Can we agree the report?
I'll second the report, Chair.
Thank you. Moving on to item 5, which is Capital Budget Monitoring 24-25, and that's pages 37 to 40 in your report. And it's back to you again, Lorraine.
Thank you. So this is the first of the two capital reports, focusing on the old year first. So on page 37 then, in section 5, you can see the total programme for the financial year is 3.086 million. Total expenditure to the end of March was 3.790 million, so we had a difference of 700,000 in comparison to the programme that we had set. At the bottom of that page, you can see we're noting there that the additional spend relates to spend on IT infrastructure projects. Both the spend and the funding were transferred from the revenue account, and that's why we've got additional spend. So I'm just looking for committee to note that position at the end of the year. So the budget of 3.086 million and the final spend of 3.790 million. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorraine. Again, do we have any questions or comments? No questions or comments. Can we agree the report?
I'll second the report, Chair.
Thank you. Moving on, item 6, Capital Budget Monitoring 25-26 to pages 41 and 44. Back to you, Lorraine.
Thank you. So the capital report then for the new financial year, with the details mainly in section 5, just noting there we've got a programme for the year of £545,000, and that's based on the original budget that we had approved back in February of the year, updated to include a carry forward, an element from the old financial year that was due to be picked up in the new year. So we've got a total budget of 545, and that's what we expect to spend this year. We've also had a look to see what we think we could actually achieve in terms of spend, so that's a realistic spend profile. In terms of section 5.3 at the top of page 42, you can see there we have a forecast for the year of the 545, and obviously if we've got any update on that, we'll bring that to committee throughout the year. In terms of spend to the 11th of July, we had spend of 28,000 at that point, and you can see the detail of that in Appendix A. If I can ask committee to go back to section 2 of the report and just note the programme of 545,000 and also the forecast expenditure of 545,000 for the year. Thank you.
Thank you again, Lorraine. Do we have any questions or comments? There's nothing coming up here. No, can we agree the report, please?
I'll second it, Chair.
Okay, item 7, Finance and Corporate Resources Workforce Monitoring, April to June 2025, and that's pages 45 to 52, and it's over to you, Michelle.
Thank you, Chair. This is a standard report that comes to committee. It's for Finance and Corporate Resources, and it's for that period, 1st of April to the 30th of June, as you mentioned. I'll just take committee through a few areas in the report. Going to the bottom of page 45, just on monitoring statistics for absence. In the content of this report, there's more information in the appendices. You'll see in the second paragraph, up from the bottom of the page, the resource absence figure for June 25 is 2.9%, and this figure has increased by 0.2 when compared to the previous month, and is 2.5% lower than the council-wide figure. Compared to June in 2024, this absence figure has decreased by 0.3%. In terms of the annual trends, the average figure for the resource for 25-26 is 3.4 compared to a council-wide average figure of 6. Over the page, on page 46, just to flag that at 4.2 we've had 27 referrals during this period for occupational health, and that was an increase of 14 when compared with the same period last year. And then at 4.4, you'll see we've had one disciplinary hearing. There's been no grievance or dignity at work complaints raised during that period. And at section 4.5, there were 7 leavers during this period who were eligible for an exit interview. In terms of sections 6 to 10 in the report, there's nothing else I would want to highlight in the report, and I would refer committee back to section 2, the recommendations which are to approve, and note the employment information from 1st of June to the 30th of June.
Thank you, Michelle. Again, do we have any comments, questions regarding this report? No comments or questions. Can we agree the report?
I'll second the report, Chair.
Thank you. Council-wide workforce monitoring, April to June 2025, pages 53 to 72. Back to you again, Michelle.
Thank you, Chair. Similar to the previous report, this is a workforce monitoring report. This is council-wide. It's for the same period, 1st of April to the 30th of June 25. And again, taking members to section 4, which is page 53, you'll see the council's absence rate for June 25, which is in the appendix, is 5.4%. That also represents a decrease of 0.2% when compared to the previous month. Is an increase of 0.2 when compared to June 24. You'll see there's also a breakdown for APT and C, which shows there's been an increase of 0.3%. The teachers' figure has increased by 0.1%, and the manual workers' figure has increased by 0.3%. Based on annual trends in the absence rate to June, the annual average absence rate for the council for 25-26 would be 6%. Just turning over the page, a bit of a summary around occupational health, which is at section 5. During that period, there were 520 employees referred for medical examination. A total of 466 employees attended physiotherapy treatments, and 73% of those remained in works whilst undertaking treatment. 423 employees were referred to employee support, and 121 employees were referred to PAM assist counselling. You'll also see there's an increase in referrals to cognitive behavioural therapy. Those numbers across the board broadly stay the same, with people accessing different supports on a different quarterly basis. At section 6, accidents and incidents, you'll see there was 410 incidents that were recorded during this period. 388 of those had been investigated at the time of the writing of the report and categorised, and 22 were still in the progress of being investigated. And you'll see of those, there were 386 which were minor accidents and incidents. And of those investigated, there were 2 accidents that had resulted in an absence lasting over 7 days. Going over to page 55, you'll see that there were 66 disciplinary hearings. 64 of these cases there was action taken in. 1 appeal has been received during this, and it will be heard by the appeals panel. There were 10 grievances submitted, and during that period as well, we had 5 dignity at work complaints. So they'll all go through the council processes in terms of looking at those matters. At section 8.2, you'll see that during the period, 113 employees left the council that were eligible for an exit interview. That was a decrease of 27 when compared to the same period last year. And there was a total of 24 exit interviews that were conducted. In terms of recruitment monitoring for that period, you'll see we received over 2,000 applications, and an almost similar number of equal opportunities monitoring forms were also received. There's a further breakdown in that section. There were 392 applicants who had declared themselves as disabled. 222 were shortlisted for interview and 20 were appointed. There were 660 black and ethnic minority background candidates, and 204 were shortlisted, with 17 being appointed. And in terms of our veterans, there were 71 who applied, and 12 were shortlisted for interview and 3 were appointed. In terms of the remaining sections in the report, there isn't anything I would highlight further. I would take committee back to section 2, the recommendations, that the following employment information for that period relating to the council be noted. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. I don't see any comments or questions. That being the case, can we agree the report?
I'll second the report, Chair.
Thank you. Moving on to Treasury Management Activity 25-26. The first quarter review, pages 73 to 80. Back to you, Lorraine.
Thank you. So this, as you say, is the first quarter Treasury Management Activity Report for the new financial year. This is the regular report and provides an update in section 4 in terms of the base rate, just noting there for your information. Section 5 is the section that provides detail of our debt management and borrowing. So table 1 shows the position for borrowing for the year to the end of quarter 1, and that's at the top of page 74. It shows that we have taken no long-term borrowing so far this year, and we've used cash balances to fund capital spend. That's a pattern over the last couple of years. We have taken some short-term borrowing to facilitate cash flow only, and that's from other public bodies such as local authorities, and this is really for cash management purposes. We are monitoring rates as we go forward, and long-term borrowing rates do look like they're coming down, so we're trying to avoid taking any long-term borrowing at higher rates that we're then tied in for, so we're trying to manage this on a short-term basis as best we can. Investment activity is noted in section 6, and that's about where we deposit our funds. So prior to depositing any funds, we make sure the institutions that we would look to deposit with are considered safe. We also make sure we can access the funds when necessary and that they're working well for the council. So as I mentioned, part of the deposit methodology includes consideration of credit ratings and rating watches, as well as working with our financial advisors. So table 3 shows where we have deposited money so far in the current year, and again, similar to previous reports. So as usual, we've deposited most of our funds, over 98%, in the UK Government Deposit Facility and other local authorities, with the balance being in our Bank of Scotland call account. Section 7 continues the theme of management of risk and notes that the annual investment strategy back in February 2025 detailed how risk is managed and what investments we are permitted to make. So tables 4 to 6 on page 76 provide you the details of the deposits and the credit rating of the banks and building societies that we've used up to the end of quarter 1, which was the end of June. The tables show that, as usual, we are using counterparties of very high credit quality. 95% are with the DMO or the UK Government. Section 8 goes on to note our plans for the next quarter, and that's pretty much going to be more of the same. So we'll continue to deposit with the institutions where their ratings are consistent with the Council's approved criteria. We'll also continue to place them mainly with the DMO and other UK local authorities. Section 9 covers your Treasury Management indicators. We're required to report on these indicators, and I would report to committee that, as shown in table 7, we've not breached the operational and authorised limits set, so there's no issues to highlight there. So if I can ask committee to go back to the recommendations in section 2 and just ask that the contents of the report are noted. Thank you.
Alec Allison, please.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Looking for a little bit more clarity. I'm not sure why we're needing to borrow short term at this time of year when we're usually, well, and I think according to this as well, we're cash rich with a lot of income coming in. We seem to be depositing in one hand and borrowing with the other. I'm not quite sure why we're doing that.
Thank you. It's really dependent on the cash flow and the cycle in terms of when we're getting money in terms of when we are having to pay back long-term loans, when we're maybe getting money paid back to us from other local authorities, other counterparties that we're dealing with, and then also just looking at our normal business, so when our payment runs are due, our payroll runs are due, and when any other money is coming in, maybe large debtor accounts are being paid. For example, some utilities company pay their rates through us, so that can be quite a significant amount of money. So it's just in terms of trying to balance across the piece, and our Treasury Management advisor works very closely with our external advisors, and we look at our cash flow across the piece and try to make deposits and borrow when appropriate. So I understand your kind of conflict between the two, but it is a very finely managed arrangement in terms of how we plan and how we move forward with our borrowing and our debt.
Okay. No more comments or questions. Can we agree the report?
I'll second the report, Chair.
Thank you. Moving on to items for decision. Item 10, Finance and Corporate Resources Workforce Plan 25 to 2027, pages 81 to 126. And I'm back to you again, Michelle.
Thank you, Chair. As you said, the purpose of this report is to provide committee with an update on the finance and corporate workforce plan. You'll see at section 3 that the council workforce strategy and plan was approved at executive committee on the 28th of May 25. So this is the plan that specifically relates to finance and corporate resources. You'll see at section 3.3 that the resource workforce plan detailed 4 key areas. I looked at the key areas of focus for resources for 25 to 27, the current resource workforce profiles and the key challenges and the actions that we were going to take to address those challenges. You'll also see that the timing of the workforce plan and the council plan, as well as the resource plans, are 25 to 27, and that's to align to the council plan when that's up for looking at again at the end of 2027 to align those plans together. In terms of section 4, you'll see there is information there about the process that was adopted when looking at the workforce planning process and who that involved in terms of business managers, resource management teams, managers, trade unions have been involved in this as well. There was a horizon scanning exercise in terms of identifying key areas of focus. We use our workforce data, and there's a planning process toolkit that we use in terms of gathering that information. As well as that, we looked at what we've done before. Turning over the page to page 82, you'll see at section 5 that the Finance and Corporate Workforce Plan is attached to Appendix 1, and the workforce planning process identified 5 key areas which are detailed 5.2 to 5.6. So the first of those is about attracting, recruiting and retaining employees. We are aware we have an ageing workforce, which can mean a loss of skills and expertise, and that's generally across the board, and we have specialist roles, for example, in procurement, IT and finance, and it is a competitive market, so we are aware of all of that. We have taken steps in this and in previous years in terms of a grow your own approach, particularly in more specialist roles, and we've tried to capture that as we've been working through the plan. We're also acutely aware, and I will talk about this in my next report around learning and development, that people are key to our success in delivering services, and that succession planning and making sure people are equipped to deliver the roles, particularly around management and leadership development, is vitally important, as well as core training. It's also important that we've created a pipeline in terms of foundation apprenticeships, employability, modern apprenticeships, graduate apprenticeships, and in terms of meeting those needs. At 5.3, one of the other areas which is a priority is transformation. And services will continue to review capacity, look at staffing requirements along with outcomes, to work on transformation reviews and changes in demands and services. And IT services will progress the digital transformation review, and that will contribute to cross-council transformation reviews as well. So we will continue with that service review plan that we have in place. Section 5.4, skills gaps, and I will talk about this more in the Learning and Development Strategy, which is the next report, but that is designed to address those gaps through learning and development activity. And that is something that changes because of turnover and the tasks and the jobs that people are doing for us, so we do keep an eye on that. At 5.5, in terms of delivery of key activities, we're very aware of the important priorities and sometimes the competing demands when we're trying to deliver things at different times. And you'll see that we will continue to review staffing arrangements and prioritise requirements to deliver key activities as we have detailed above. The next key activity is employee wellbeing. And there are challenges in terms of absence, in terms of resilience, and continuing to build on further to develop methods of employee engagement. We have extensive supports, health and wellbeing activities in place for employees, and they do tap into those services. In addition to that, personnel services with the support of the corporate management team have created some additional posts around absence to support managers and services and employees as we take that forward. We will continue to review and improve supports to enhance wellbeing and engage with the trade unions in line with our partnership working arrangements when we're doing that. Section 6 is just to say that these plans will be monitored on an ongoing basis, and we will report on an annual basis to committee. And as you would expect, detailed at 6.2, workforce planning is incorporated into the resource risk register to acknowledge how important that is. In section 7, I just wanted to highlight that the workforce planning process in place ensures an effective workforce is in place to deliver council services. In terms of sections 8 to 11, there's no further areas I would highlight there, and I would refer committee back to section 2 of the report to approve the following recommendations: that the work to produce the workforce plan for finance and corporate resources is noted, and that the Finance and Corporate Resources Workforce Plan 25 to 27 as attached to Appendix 1 is approved, and I'm happy to take any questions. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Michelle. Do we have any questions or comments? I'd just like to say it's an excellent report, your workforce plan. I did read it all, honestly. No, it is, it's very good, and it just shows that we always have our employees' best interests at heart, so thank you. We have no one asking to speak. Can we agree this report?
I'll second the report, Chair.
Thank you. Moving on to Learning and Development Strategy 25 to 27, pages 127 to 152. Again, it's back to you, Michelle.
Thank you, Chair. So the purpose of this report is to provide committee with an update on the learning and development strategy for 25 to 27, and you can see that that is aligned to the workforce plan and the council's plan as well, just in terms of date orientation. There's some background there that members will be familiar with. We had to act very, very quickly during the pandemic in terms of working in very, very different ways and supporting our employees. That really worked well in terms of developing at pace and enhancing our e-learning and other digital learning and development interventions. That was a positive that did come out of that. You can see at 3.2, the service has continued to prioritise digital learning, and we do work closely with our IT colleagues, and we've reviewed the current learning and development plan as part of that process. You'll see the plans that I have detailed at 3.2 that we're aligned to, and you'll see in section 3.3 that as well as having an internal eye, we have looked externally in terms of benchmarking, seeing what else is going on across Scotland to take that into account. So we have considered those external documents as well. Turning over the page to page 128, also wanted to highlight at 3.4 that we've also commenced a review of our management and leadership development activities across the council, as well as our induction process, which is mentioned later in the report. And we're looking at those changes and plan to be implemented towards the end of the year, and we will give committee an update on that as well. We do see that as absolutely key in terms of supporting organisation. In terms of the learning and development strategy itself, from 25 to 27, that is included at Appendix 1. The key and overarching vision for this is improving the quality of services through developing and maximising the capabilities, skills and competencies of our workforce. And you'll see there in the rest of that page, there are 6 strategic priorities that have been proposed in terms of delivering this plan, and they are detailed at section 4.3, which is governance, digital learning, management and leadership development, mandatory training, vocational development, and our Grow Your Own approach. You'll see then sections 4.4.1, which starts off with digital learning, and then details in each of those sections what our ambitions are around those 6 areas, which are detailed in there. Probably what I wanted to highlight in there is the work that we're doing around digital learning. We are working very closely with our ID colleagues. We have been carrying out surveys. We are trying to assess that, and we are trying to support employees in terms of expanding their skills. In terms of governance, we are improving our governance. It was good, but we think we can add value to that, and we will be reporting more on that, and we are looking at the work of the Learning, Development and Workforce Planning Boards in terms of supporting that. In terms of Grow Your Own, you'll be aware of the activity that we do around that, and we will continue to expand on that. And there are a few examples in this section around waste services and planning services. We also have social work assistance to social workers, procurement. So we've used this across the council in terms of supporting the workforce planning activity. Also at 4.4.5, this framework also aligns with the development of management and leadership programmes, as I mentioned, apprentice programmes and other vocational training opportunities that we have, that we do for staff who already work with us as well. And that aligns to our priorities in this document. And as I mentioned earlier, management and leadership development is vital in terms of the managers spread across the council and making sure they are skilled in the way that they need to be to deliver services. We're also looking at mandatory training in the work that we do around vocational training, which is detailed at 4.4.8. There's information there which is included on our award in terms of delivering modern apprenticeships and Scottish vocational qualifications, and I suppose that demonstrates your commitment to that work and to continuing to review the current modern apprenticeship delivery model to assess its effectiveness and again build on that if there are improvements to make in terms of maximising that impact. In terms of challenges, again, this has been talked about at other committees and within other reports. There are financial pressures, available funding depend on some of the programmes that we're trying to run. That challenge around digital inclusion, to change that to inclusion, and support and buy-in from managers when there are many things going on in their competing priorities, and mainstreaming equality. So that is all weaved through the work that we've got to do. And again, just flagging there in terms of monitoring and reporting at section 6, each of the 6 priorities will be delivered through an action plan, and that will be monitored on an ongoing basis. There's no other areas I would highlight from section 7 onwards, and I would refer committee back to the recommendation at section 2, that the contents of this report be noted and that the Learning and Development Strategy 25 to 27 as attached be approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michelle. I get once again a thorough report. I don't see any comments or questions. No, can we agree the report?
I'll second the report, Chair.
Thank you. Item 12 is prudential indicators, treasury management activity, and it's pages 153 to 174, and it's back to you, Lorraine.
Thank you. So, as you say, Chair, agenda item 12 provides an update on 3 areas of treasury management activity. So it's treasury management activity itself, the prudential code indicators, and the annual investment strategy. So due to regulations that are in place, each of these areas have different reporting requirements through the committee structure, and I'll explain that when we get to the recommendations at the end. So taking you through the report itself then, we note the 3 areas that we'll cover in the background, section 3 there, for your information. So the first is the treasury management activities for the year as required by the Chartered Institute of Finance and Accountancy Code. Secondly, and linked to our borrowing, again, CIPFRA Prudential Code requires us to report on a series of indicators to demonstrate prudence, sustainability and affordability in relation to our capital financing decisions, also known as our borrowing requirements. Thirdly, the Local Government Investment Scotland regulations require us to prepare an annual investment strategy before the start of the financial year and also a report at the end of the year. And this report this afternoon covers the end of year position, and that needs to be approved by full council. If I can refer you then into the body of the report, there are 3 appendices covering these areas, but each of the areas are covered separately. So section 4 looks at the treasury management activity for 24-25, and that's detailed in appendix 1. The summary in the paper shows that it covers our borrowing and deposits for the year, and these are in line with the Q4 Treasury Management Activity Report that I presented at the last committee. Section 5, Appendix 2, looks at the prudential indicators, and that provides details of the Council's capital expenditure for the year and also the borrowing linked to that capital expenditure. One of the indicators sets limits on our level of borrowing, and I'd report that we remained within those limits during the last financial year. Lastly, section 6 of your report this afternoon summarises the position on the annual investment report, which is detailed in Appendix 3. And in this section, we cover deposits. And for the last year, I can report that all deposits were in line with our approved lending limits and the approved credit rating criteria. So 95% of our deposits were made with counterparties of very high credit rating, and the remaining 5% were with the Bank of Scotland instant access call account. So if I can take you back to the recommendations in section 2, which are quite detailed, but I'll try and summarise them. So if I can ask that the Treasury Management Report and the Treasury Management and Prudential Code Indicators Report be noted, and that they're both referred on to the Executive Committee for noting, and that the Annual Investment Report be endorsed, and that it's then referred to the Executive Committee prior to submission to Council for full approval. And that's in line with the Local Government Investment Scotland Regulations 2010. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Lorraine. I don't see any comments or questions, so can I thank you for your report, and can we agree this report?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Item 13 is revenue collection and approval for write-offs. They're on pages 175 to 180. Craig, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. The report advises committee of the collection performance to the end of July for this financial year, an update in respect to the business rates incentivisation scheme, and also seeks approval for write-offs. Moving to section 4, the first table in appendix 1 details the collection performance for the 3 income streams. In terms of council tax, that's currently ahead of target, as is non-domestic rates, with sundry debt marginally behind target. Move on to section 5, arrears collection performance, again across the 3 areas detailed in the second table, appendix 1. We have council tax ahead of target, likewise for non-domestic rates, with sundry debt position being equal to target. Section 6 updates in respect to the non-domestic rates incentivisation scheme. The buoyancy target for the council for this year has been set at 0.9%, with buoyancy at the end of June this year being 0.04%. So the tax base received growth of more than 0.86% during the remaining 3 months of the quarter to screen additional income for the council under the scheme. Section 7 details the proposals for write-off for committee consideration today. This covers the usual income streams covering council tax, non-domestic rates, sundry debt, and also former tenant rent arrears. For committee, back to section 2 of the report, the collection performance be noted, the position in respect to the incentivisation scheme also be noted, and the bullet point dated at section 3 detailing the various write-offs be approved by committee. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Craig. Any comments or questions? No. Can we agree the report?
I'll second the report, Chair.
Thank you. Moving on, short-term lets, licence fees for new applications types, pages 181 to 184. Ian, please.
Thanks, Chair. Afternoon. Purpose of report, request approval for a fee structure in respect of new short-term let application types. Set out in the report, there's 3 new types of application for the short-term lets regime. The licensing committee approved some minor changes to the policy in respect of these, and in principle the fees, but remitted it here for approval. As of now, and not just as the date of the report, we haven't had any applications for these fee types, but obviously we anticipate that we might. The proposed fee structure set out in 4.2. We've reflected on other similar fees charged by the council, what other authorities have done. And what I'd also mention is that we're about to undertake a triennial review of the short-term lets policy with a view to bringing that back to Executive Committee later in the year. So going to the recommendations, asking that the committee approves the fees for new short-term let application types as set out in paragraph 4.2. Happy to take any questions.
Do you have any questions for Ian? No, if not, can we approve the report?
I'll second the report, Chair.
Thank you very much. Items 15, 16, 17 and 18 are all for noting, unless anyone has got any particular questions that they would care to ask. If not, can we just agree these reports en masse? No comments? No. Can we agree?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. Item 19, I have got no matters of urgent business, and can I thank you all for your attendance and declare this meeting closed. Thank you very much.